This is Jane Hawtin Live on WTN. Call now at 1-800-510-JANE.
I'm Jane Hawtin. We're getting reaction to a ruling that was handed down to a convicted batterer who must confess his crime to the women he dates. And actually, we've moved on to getting suggestions on better ways to deal with it. Our guests are lawyers Mary Lou McPhedran and Karen McArthur, and abuse survivor Catherine Shelley. Let's talk to Mark, who's calling from Toronto. Hi, Mark.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I guess I'd just like to say that I don't agree with the ruling. I think it sets a dangerous precedent. And when do you draw the line? I mean, should it apply to, teenage offenders who may perpetrate any type of crime? Should they tell an employer that previously they may have stolen? Where do you draw the line?
While they're on probation, yeah. Would you object to that, Mark? If you've ever been an employer, I'm sure you'd like to know that, right?
Well, I think it's up to my job as an employer to research and find out the best candidate for the job, because people.
Why should you have to? If you're hiring someone who's on probation, it's not as if this follows them forever. It's just while on probation.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's just while on probation. It's not after that.
Okay, but I think it's up to me as an employer to find out. I mean, if I'm dating someone, should a woman tell me that perhaps that they battered their husband or their boyfriend,
or that they laid false complaints?
Okay, but should the same rule apply to women who have been charged with the same offense?
Sure.
Why not?
None of us would object to that. No. Thanks very much for calling, Mark. Now, what we've discovered here is that all three of you have experienced what this woman went through and why this man ended up in court.
We've all dealt with the issues. I haven't been hit per se, but I've dealt with the issues. And I've tried to empower myself and move beyond it and not see myself as a victim and be strengthened by the experience. I continue to do the frontline work and criminal defense work where there are not very many women on the front line. Not only do you experience sexism, you experience harassment, sometimes from your clients, the judges, fellow lawyers, and then when you have it in your personal relationships as well, it gives you quite a groundswell to draw upon of experiences. One of the things that hasn't been touched upon...
Okay, wait a minute. Mary Lou, do you want to react to what she's saying here? Does that bother you, the letting go of victimhood so quickly thing?
Well, I think that when you're young and lovely and privileged, it's a lot easier to let go of that than many of the women who are caught in this cycle of violence. And I'm not surprised to hear that there aren't many women representing abusers on the front line. I think there probably are not that many women who would be very comfortable doing it.
They're presumed innocent. They're not per se abusers, and what we are doing is ensuring that civil rights and liberties are respected. I draw upon what Nellie McClung has said in the past. Never explain, never apologize, never retract, just get the job done. And if that means
if your job is defending
yourself,
abusers,
if
I
that
guess
means
that's the choice you make.
yourself and throwing off the cloak of victimhood, then I say it's time. Women, we're approaching the millennium. We should be doing that, Mary Lou. And I don't denigrate the work that you do.
You think
I
women
think that
aren't?
the work that you do is important. But to say that what I do is wrong,
this isn't
and
about
the view
me, Karen, and this isn't about you.
Well,
you're taking your own life and your own particular
one
success,
that
and you're holding it out and saying that what you have done, all women can do. And I'm just trying to draw to your attention that there are millions of women out there who can't do what you have done for very good reasons.
Catherine has been victimized and has been abused and has...
Which I don't associate myself with those terms any longer. I don't feel victimized any longer. I feel
a survivor.
Well, I'm a warrior, actually. And,
I like that term. I like that term.
This is Sandra Butler, who's very famous in the business. Talks about the movement from victim to survivor to warrior, and I would prefer to see that in his 100 hours of community service that he's required to go into high schools and teach children what it means to be a batterer today, as opposed to maybe talking to his dates or with talking to his dates. In other words, and this is where my anger comes from with this whole issue, is that we're not doing the best for our younger people in this society to teach them what this looks like, how to tell, how to get out. We're not empowering them.
I agree. I think that's a great idea, Catherine, and that's one of the ones that I advocate to judges, is make it creative in that way. Drive the message home so that they can teach other people about it.
Well, let's talk to Kim, who's calling from Winnipeg. Hi, Kim.
Oh, hi, Jane.
Hi.
Hi. I know you already had somebody from Winnipeg. I just want to say I love your show, and every day when I get home from work, it's really nice to spend my first hour just listening to all the guests that you have coming on. It's a great way to unwind. But I wanted to come back to one of the points made, which was the secrecy issue.
Yep.
And I think that Karen, who is the lawyer there, really missed the boat on that issue, and probably because she's not been in an abusive relationship, or she hasn't worked with people on a day-to-day basis. Is the thing that they have over victims is the secrecy issue, is that it is a secret. It goes on for a long time before somebody actually comes out and makes a charge or takes it to court or does whatever. And so the reason I wanted to come back to that point is that the one thing that the abuser needs to do, and I like some of the creative ideas, speaking to maybe other abusers in groups and speaking to high schools about, the fact that I'm an abuser, but particularly having to admit that that is a part of me and that I am going to change that. If they are really repentant, they shouldn't have a problem with that. And if they're wanting to keep it a secret, then that is a problem.
Well, isn't that why this is a good ruling, to make the guy at least tell? He's going to have to tell somebody.
Except that he has a constitutional guarantee to freely express himself and
it's
to
not
freely
absolute.
associate. No, I agree with you,
There is no
Mary
constitutional guarantee that is absolute.
Correct. We have Section 1, which is an analysis and a balancing approach to it. But he does have, on its face level, the constitutional right to freely express himself and equally to not express himself.
Even when he's on probation?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. And
the lawyers disagree.
That's why we have courts.
The constitutional decision that currently stands on the issue of forced speech, just to take this on and show you how wrong Karen is, actually validated having an employer write a very specific kind of letter of recommendation on behalf of an employee. Went all the way to the Supreme Court. They said, yes, it's a form of forced speech. It's okay. It's reasonable in this democratic society. It is in all likelihood equally reasonable to have someone who has committed this crime to tell the truth.
Obviously, Mary Lou, they had to go to the Section 1 analysis in that case.
They always do.
Forced speech analysis.
You know what they're talking about?
Always do.
And that's me. I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't think in this case.
I know they're disagreeing, but I don't know what they're talking about.
You don't have to get that far here. This is ambiguous. It's
I know you say it's illegal. She says it's illegal. It is legal.
It's just fine.
You say it doesn't go far enough. And I think a lot of people went,
there's no appeal. It stands. It's fine.
That's correct. Thank you all for joining me. Mary Lou McPhedran is a lawyer and president of the Metropolitan Action Committee on Violence Against Women and Children in Toronto. Karen McArthur is a criminal attorney practicing in Toronto. Catherine Shelley is a survivor of domestic abuse and a volunteer director at a women's shelter. I'll be right back.